Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another album review. My name is Christian Eschbach. Hi there, everyone. I've covered a lot of box sets and stuff like that lately, and I recently procured. I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. When I was a teenager, I was visiting my grandmother, and my uncle's vinyl collection was there, and it had been sitting there for years, untouched, unloved, just sitting there. And I went rifling through and I picked out what I considered some choice albums to pick out, because we're talking, these are like a lot of cases the original vinyl releases, or at least the original vinyl Canadian pressings. And the reason I say this is one of the things we're going to be talking about that I pulled out of there, which ties in both box sets, and that is Rush Archives. Now this is a album collection, much like the Black Sabbath, Anno Domini, which I have covered recently. And the reason I'm doing the Rush one now is I've missed a couple Canadian albums just due to timing and stuff like that. And it's time to do some Canadian albums. I've also covered one album already out of Rush Archive. Album review 220 was Rush Fly By Night, which is one of the 3 albums in here. So if you want to see my review for Rush Fly By Night, go to album review 220. Otherwise, today we are talking about Rush, the self-titled debut album, which until I went to do this review, I had never listened to in its entirety. And wow, I am a bad Rush listener for that. I have a reason for never picking up the Rush album. In the grand scope of things, the first Rush album is actually very different from most Rush that came afterwards. Main reason is John Rutsey on the drums and lyrics. I believe John Rutsey wrote the lyrics. Let me do a quick check here. Oh, no. Maybe? No? No, I am wrong. Rutsey did not do the lyric writing. Okay. So the first album was written, my entire of screw ups here. For some reason, I don't have a good reason. I always assumed because Peart was told right off the bat he had to write the lyrics, that it was Rutsey that wrote the lyrics on the first album. And now that I'm looking at this firsthand for the first time ever, I am seeing that no, it's all Lee and Lifeson on the first album, with the exception of the track In the Mood, which is specifically just Lee. Now we are talking about Geddy Lee on vocals, lead vocals and bass, Alex Lifeson doing guitars and vocals, and John Rutsey doing drums and vocals. The drumming is definitely different. It's more rock drumming, standard rock drumming, but you could hear more of, like, say, a Keith Moon, possibly a John Bonham influence in there, a little more erratic, a little more vibed to the music, not as Neil Peart perfection, precision drumming, and that's okay. I'm good with that. This album in general is, as I was saying, different because this is a very blues-based rock album, man. Like, this thing is just dripping in rock blues. And Alex's guitar work on this album is something that is just, later albums, due to production and that, Alex's guitar work kind of gets lost a little bit. And when I say lost, I don't mean you can't hear it. I mean, there's just so much going on in the songs. But here, where there's very minimal going on, like, I mean, there's no keyboards. You know, the drumming, like I said, it's more of a basic kind of rock drumming style. Very blues rock based album in general, and it really kind of resonates where the guitar, Alex Lifeson's guitar, really comes out and pops out in the forefront. It's really kind of cool and nice to hear. And I am really disappointed in myself on never picking this album up sooner, but everybody always told me, don't worry about this one because this one was one of those albums that um, wasn't a big deal to get. And I feel I was done dirty being told that and not picking it up myself after all these years. I will definitely be picking it up on compact disc after listening on here. Now, there are 3 songs on here I did know before listening to this album today. Finding My Way, In the Mood, and Working Man. All of them have been used on live albums. Finding My Way and In the Mood, believe were both cut at one point as medleys with Fly By Night, where one would transition into the other. Finding My Way isn't a bad tune. Starts off the first side, but Finding My Way and In the Mood are actually kind of like the 2 songs off this album that I kind of like the least. Working Man is Working Man, man. That that man, that riff right there, man. Ooh, yeah. And that's what finishes off side 2, okay? So that's the last song on this album, and it is honestly, I mean, there's a reason they still play it to this day. It is the best song off this album. And I'm going to say, man, it is still, I think, one of Rush's best songs, period. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So after Finding My Way, which, you know, great little start to the album. It's got the right energy and everything like that to it. We get into Need Some Love. I actually really dig this tune. And I really kind of wish that this is a song. Okay, so there's talk about Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson getting back together and possibly going back out on the road as Rush. And I think most Rush fans really kind of, as much as they love the idea, no one's ever going to fill Neil Peart's shoes. I think, though, for the 2 of them to go back out on the road and get another drummer and do like a celebration of just this album, that would be really cool. Just go back to the roots, do club shows, stuff like that, get another drummer, and just do this album. And I think that would be something amazing for the true hardcore fans. Because Need Some Love is a good song, man, that I think has been sadly overlooked. And then you go into Take a Friend. That one, I don't mind it. I still think it's better than Finding My Way or In the Mood. But, you know, coming after Need Some Love, it's kind of a little bit of a pullback. And then you go Here Again, which is really, really cool, and I dig that one too. Then you get to side 2, and I actually get to do the flippies because it was on vinyl for this, so I actually get to do this properly going into side 2. I don't get to do that often. You got What You're Doing, which great way to start off side 2. Once again, great energy, good vibe going. And then you go to In the Mood, which whatever. Before and After, which I really dig the intro on Before and After. There's this really beautiful, I thought it was going to be an instrumental track at first, the way it was going. Just this beautiful guitar piece going on, layered in with the bass and whatnot, and just really wonderful sounding intro. And then it evolves into this more of this song, and I really dig it as I'm going into it. And then the album finishes off with the aforementioned Working Man. And, Working Man, oh man. That is always going to be one of my all-time favorite Rush songs. Always going to be, man. And I love both this studio version and I love the live version, especially the live version where you get Neil's drum solo in there, man. Oh, yeah. But the whole way around, don't make the mistakes I did, okay? If you're a young one watching this review trying to figure out where you want to go with Rush, dear God, get the first album, okay? I screwed up never getting this first album. This is really such a great sound from Rush. And yeah, you know it's the beginning and you know they evolve into the bigger monstrous thing that is Rush. But here in its purest, very start, you can see why Kiss was so much into Rush, because there is a lot of that. Like, this is a more evolved version of that, but you got so much talent and skill going on here. And John Rutsey really is, I mean, every drummer is an overlooked drummer next to Neil Peart. That just goes without saying, all right? But John Rutsey is just something special on here, man. And he really, the band clearly never would have evolved the way it did had it not been for the introduction of Neil. But they really got going on this one, and there's a part of me that would love to get to that alternate universe to see what would have happened if John didn't have diabetes. For those that don't know, I'm going to put this in at the end, I guess. John Rutsey, the original drummer, had to leave due to complications with diabetes. It was too hard on him. This is back in not the early days of diabetes care and whatnot, but it definitely was not as advanced as it is now, and it definitely was not as easy to manage as it is now. I mean, it's leaps and bounds compared to what it was back then. My grandfather actually had geriatric diabetes, and it developed I believe, in the 80s. Might have even been in the 70s. I remember him always kind of having it. And I remember his testing machine in the 80s and how monstrous huge it was just for that little drop of blood and having all that crap. And there was the measuring the insulin out, and oh my god. So going back into the mid 70s was going to be even worse. And it's a real shame that things had to go the way they did, but in some ways they did go for the better. But I would love to see that. After listening to this album, I really would love to see that universe where where he didn't have diabetes and he was able to go ahead and rock out the way they rocked out on here. So yeah, folks, please don't make the same foolish mistakes I made. Go out, get the first Rush album. If you already own the first Rush album, please, in the comments, let me know how I was such a fool. And let me tell you, we're going to be having this conversation again. Not necessarily that I was a fool for not picking up or whatever, but the next review is going to be the other album in here I have not reviewed yet. My next review is going to be Caress of Steel. And I very much look forward to doing this one. I know a couple of the songs on here as well due to live albums, but not too many. So that's going to be experience as well that I look forward to. Until then, everybody, like I said, leave me a comment on your way down in the comments. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell for notifications. That helps out me, you, everybody. There is a link down in the comments. Peace, love, take care.